Good. Hey, welcome to the Empower series, and welcome to all of our viewers in the United States and around the world. My name is Clifton Ellis Johnson. You may know me if you're new. Hello, and you're watching the Empower series podcast. What we're going to talk about today is a topic that is sometimes difficult to talk about. A lot of people don't like talking about it, but it's called estate planning. And I want to talk to you about avoiding the mess that we typically leave behind for our loved ones. And again, I'm not talking at you. I'm in the same group, so I'm going to use we a lot. So we're going to cover a few things. I want to list the things that we're going to cover, just so that you know. We're going to cover why estate planning is so crucial, overcoming procrastination and fear, key components of a comprehensive estate planning plan, tips for getting organized and decluttering. We can use that in every area of our lives, creating a digital legacy, and the importance of meeting with an attorney or financial advisor. So that's what we're going to cover. In the meantime, there's somebody in your circle that can hear about this and need to hear about this. If they're not going to join us live right now, so I want to welcome everybody who's joining us live. Definitely share this with someone else. They can watch it now, watch it later, but there's going to be some valuable information. Whenever you learn something, you need to teach it. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't keep the Empower series to yourself. So go ahead and share it with somebody else. That's the only way they're going to find out about the Empower series. Take the time now, share the link. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, if you haven't subscribed or followed us yet, please do so. But we're on other platforms as well, like LinkedIn. We're on Instagram, Twitter. So take the moment to go ahead and engage. Give us comments. I'm watching the live chat too. So if you have any questions as we go over this stuff, definitely put it in the chat. I'm going to share with you some personal stories. So if you can relate to that, give me some feedback, because I hate just talking. I want to have a dialogue on this topic, right? So please take the time to do that. In every program, we always give you hope, inspiration, education, and connecting you to resources to help you take the next step to your goal. So right now, I'm going to start backwards. I'm going to connect you to some resources. If you're watching this on YouTube, I've already put links on the bottom of this video to 2 documents that the AARP provides, because they have a personal estate planning course that is free, y'all. So this is the first book. It's called The Lesson Book. It will give you everything you need to know about estate planning, things you probably haven't thought of. And if you're going to meet with a financial advisor or an attorney, I would suggest you read this so you can at least have some knowledge when you're going in and talking to them. The other book, which is very important, it's a link underneath, is the Personal Estate Planning Course Record Book. So this is what it looks like. So those are the first 2 links that are underneath the video on YouTube. So go to our YouTube channel, check it out. And then we had an attorney speak on estate planning, and she wrote this article called Organizing Your Life for Your Death. 5 things to do before you die. Only 5? But that's an article that's worth reading. But she goes through, and there's a link to it. She talks about the importance of creating what's called an asset book. And she goes through and identify what are the different assets and the records that you need to have in addition to these estate planning documents for your loved ones when you pass away. Keeping a password book. So there's all kind of online accounts that we have, digital or virtual or cloud databases. So you need to keep a list of that. And also it's important because a lot of times accessing these online accounts requires you to access your deceased loved one's phone, because they're going to send a text to your phone. So also being able to know the password to the phone. The other 3 things that she talks about is, oh wow, I missed the third one, but it's making a family tree, telling somebody where the book is, and again, just making sure that your loved ones are knowing where to get information that is needed. And the 5 things are listed there. I didn't go over 5, I only went over 4. Now, that being said, before we get into this, I want to take the time to share some things with you. Over 70% of people pass away without a will. So that's a lot of people, y'all. And I would say it's not detrimental to not have a will. We did a workshop last weekend on life insurance, and I talked about nobody can tell you that you need life insurance. They can ask you questions, help you clarify your goals. If you care about people and want to not leave a financial burden for them, then having life insurance might be a good solution. However, if you don't care about that, then don't worry about it. So when we talk about this estate planning stuff, if you're going to be gone and you don't really care about what your loved ones are going to go through afterwards, or you don't care for it enough to get your mess in order, that's cool. Because look, you're part of the group. 70% of the people don't have a will. They don't have a plan. And life goes on. I know that's happened. I know my mother and father loved me, but they didn't have a plan when they passed away in 1983 and 88. And so we had to deal with it. And family comes together, loved ones come together. They'll either come out of pocket or they'll help you organize and plan for the final arrangements. So it is achievable for you to live life without going through this. But if you care about your loved ones enough to go through the difficulties of going through what I'm going to talk to you about, then I think it's worth it. So realize that there's a lot of people who pass away without having a will, but I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one, Michael Epps, the comedian, did a short on Instagram, and he talked about this chasing of money. And he said, look, y'all, no one owns anything in this world. This is a rented life. It's a rented life because nobody is greater than anyone else. So this estate planning process is not just for the wealthy, people who have a lot of money, a lot of material, a lot of property. It's not just for them. He said that at the end of the day, we can't take any of this stuff with us. All we can do is stack it up. And if we're stacking it up to give it to somebody else because we can't take it with us. There's no U-Haul behind a hearse. So all of this stuff that we're chasing might give us comfort for today, but it's not permanent. Because when we're gone and we're all going to be gone, we're just going to give it to somebody else. So part of living is also planning for how do you want to give that to your loved ones, the ones that care for you. And I would say everybody has an estate. Our previous attorney that spoke on the estate planning process and probate is Kenneth Walker. So he's a Harvard graduate. He lives here in South Dallas. You can Google Kenneth Walker in the Empower series and see his programs. But what I like about what he says is that everybody has an estate. And an estate is more than it's not just stuff, it's people. Because when anybody passes away, there are people that are impacted by their passing, and that is our legacy. So our legacy is not more than just stuff, it's the emotional feeling that people have and memories of us, and how do we want that to be? So if that's important to you, on your scale of importance, then you can get something from this. My goal is to inspire you to take action from what I'm going to share with you. So I already connected you to some resources. You got 2 links underneath the video with the lesson book and the record book. You also have a link to an article where you can go through and review it. But in this program, in 30 to 40 minutes, I'm not going to be able to go through all of that detail. The other thing I want to share with you is, and it's a memory of Frankie Beverly. So Frankie Beverly, the iconic frontman for Maze, passed away on Tuesday, this September, is gone. He passed away, and I was listening to some of his music today, and this is why this is on my heart. One of his songs is We Are One. And for those of you who don't know it, you can Google it on YouTube and hear it, but I'm just gonna read some of the lyrics to you. And it's a message that is in theme with what we're going to go through right now. Because like I said before, we're all are going to not be here at some point. We all are going to have people who are going to miss us, and we are truly one. And so it starts with, can't understand why we treat each other in this way. Taking up time with the silly, silly games we play. We've got our love. And no matter how it's said or done, we are one. No matter what we do, we are one. Love will see us through. We are one. That's the way it is. And he says, sometimes I feel like that we're trying to make each other sad. The things we do, how we make each other feel so bad. We've got so much. We could all be having so much fun. We are one from the start. We are one deep down in our hearts. We are one, and that is the way it is. So baby, we are one. We're in this game, we're in this temporary life, this temporary physical experience, and at the end of the day, all people are gonna have is a memory of us and what other stuff we've accumulated that we couldn't use while we were alive. And so those are the things, the fact that this is a rented life, we don't own anything, so don't get it twisted. There's nobody greater than anybody else, and we're all walking this life on the same path, and we are one. No matter what our differences are, we have more in common than we have that are separate. So I wanted to start with that, and I also wanted to talk to you about we all have experienced people who've passed, and for one reason or another, their things were not in order. I'll tell you that my brother passed away in 2020, and he passed away of COVID, and it was my sister and I, and we had to deal with his passing, and he was here in Texas, so I dealt a lot with his final arrangements and going through his apartment and cleaning out his stuff, and then also arranging his memorial. I say that because when I talk to my brother, I'm a financial advisor, and I'm talking to him, and I'm always asking him to get his insurance straight, make sure he had a will, and he never shared with me what he really had, but when he passed away, I found out what he had. And he didn't have a will and an estate plan together, but he did have life insurance, and he did have beneficiaries on most of his accounts. And so a lot of people think that the critical documents to have, it's not a think, it's the critical documents to have as part of the estate planning process. I'm gonna go through those, there's like 5 or 6 of them. You may not have all of these documents, but they're all important. And I think it's important for you to understand at least what they are, and then we can talk about how that fits in. And having these documents is just the beginning, because the other part of it is when someone passes away, can they find the documents? So the cornerstone of any estate plan is a will. So a will is simply a legal document that outlines how you want your assets to be distributed after you pass away. It allows for the name of guardians for minors. It also designates an executor who's going to be responsible for handling all of your inventory and dealing with the court. It oversees the estate planning process, and it can also include, it doesn't have to, but it can also include funeral arrangements. Then you have a trust. Now, a trust is also a legal document arrangement that allows you to transfer ownership of your assets to a trustee who will manage those assets for the benefit of a beneficiary. So when you're creating the trust, you're considered the grantor. As a grantor, you can identify who the trustee is, who's going to be the person responsible for managing your assets, and then for the benefit of, and trust avoids probate, and it provides for incapacity as well as protecting your assets as well. So everybody thinks, hey, a trust is better than a will. It's good to have both, just in case when you have a trust, it's important to put assets in those trusts. Some people create the trust and they never fill it with assets. So if you have a will and a trust, your attorney can help you make sure that everything is transferred into your trust upon your passing. Those are the 2 documents. The cornerstone is the will, the trust, and then these other documents I'm going to talk about are documents that really come into play before you pass away. And people don't really think about that. So before we pass away, we usually lose some type of capacity, mental capacity, to take care of the things that we take care of. So that might be paying our bills on time, taking care of ourselves physically, or even making medical decisions for us. So before you pass away, and while you're in your right frame of mind, you may want to identify, importantly, who you want to be your agent to make those decisions on your behalf, but even more important, who you don't want to be making those decisions on your behalf. Right? And so it's called a durable power of attorney. A durable power of attorney usually gives financial authority to an agent to act on your behalf in the event that you cannot act on your behalf, so you're incapacitated. But it could also be a document that's in place today. So for example, with me, I have a power of attorney that is in place that identifies agents in the event that I'm incapacitated. However, I have a power of attorney document right now that is in place and is active for my son. So if I'm not able to make any decisions, let's say I'm in an accident or something in that case, I have a power of attorney with my financial banks that allows my son to step in and make sure my bills are getting paid while these other documents, the durable power of attorney, is going through the court process to assign my agent. All of that detail, talk to an attorney, but those are 3 documents. You have a will, you have a trust, you have a power of attorney for financial matters. You can also have a power of attorney for medical matters. So when you go to the doctor, they usually ask you, do you have a medical power of attorney? If you don't have the document already, they'll have you sign something where you can identify a person that they can talk to in the event that you're not capable of making financial or medical decisions for yourself. Then there's also what's called a living will or an advance directive. Now, this is a legal document that expresses your wishes regarding medical treatment in the event that you're not able to make decisions on your behalf, and it covers topics like life support, organ donation, and end-of-life care. So that's like an advance directive. You're saying in advance how you would like to be taken care of in the event that you can't make the decisions for yourself, and you're assigning somebody as your agent as well. And that way, that agent is following your orders and not having to talk to your family members, and maybe your family members have different opinions about your end of life treatment. But if you have already identified in a document how you want to be taken care of, then that agent does not have to worry about it. Also, there's something called the HIPAA authorization. This is a document that grants the designated agent the authority to access your protected health information from your healthcare providers. So the other documents that are important to have is a guardianship nomination and a digital asset inventory. So the guardianship nomination is if you have a minor child and you can designate a guardian for them to care for them in the event of your death or incapacitation. But you can also have a guardianship nomination for yourself in the event that you cannot take care of yourself, and then you can have a guardian take care of you. But more importantly, not just assigning your agent, but you also want to make sure that Pookie or Robert or Jennifer, if these people don't have your best interest at heart, you also want to identify who you do not want to be your agent. Because if you don't make that decision in advance and then something does happen to you, then your family members are going to step up, and the court will have to assign somebody to do that. And you may want to make sure it's not the wrong person. But then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the digital asset inventory. That's where when you look at technology today, we all have Facebook accounts, YouTube channels, and we have pictures on the cloud. We have a lot of stuff that's now in the cloud that you access via a username and password. If you have not identified that and given people the authority to access that or determine what you want to have done, then you're just leaving that to the wind. And at the end of the day, like I said before, if you don't care about any of this stuff, don't care about it. 70% of the people don't have it and their loved ones have figured it out. But if you really want to make sure that you're not asking your loved ones to go through the emotional trauma of losing you, plus having to make decisions about what to do with your assets, then you may want to take heed and listen to some of the things that we're talking about. So what I want to cover is connecting you to resources, giving you some information, defining what that is. A lot of this is going to be, again, on the bottom of the YouTube channel. But what I want to spend most of the time doing today is really inspiring you to take action. So I know that when my brother passed, it was an emotional experience for a lot of people, even his kids. And I, as the uncle, stepped up and took care of some things because they were in their 20s at that time, or almost 20. And it was just a difficult time for them. And so like when my mom passed, my aunts and uncles stepped up and did a lot of the arrangements. But then when my father passed, then I stepped up to do it. So it's a difficult time to take care of those things. And my brother did not have a will. And what I did is I reached out to my attorney friends. And I wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of. And I found out something. There is a smooth way of transitioning your assets to who you want them to go to. If you don't have a lot of money, it's not worth going through the process of probate, because not every estate needs to go through probate. My brother did not have a property. He did not have real estate. He just had a car, and he had his personal affairs. And he had bank accounts and life insurance. So what he did is he had a beneficiary assigned to his life insurance. Unfortunately, he did not have a beneficiary assigned to his bank accounts. But you want to make sure that you have a person or an entity assigned to all of your liquid assets or your investments. If you do that, that bypasses probate and is not transferred in a will. The only time those assets are transferred in your will is if you do not designate a beneficiary. Then by default, it goes to your estate. And I want to make sure, again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving you legal advice. You definitely need to talk to an attorney or a financial advisor to get advice that is specific for you. All of the information I'm sharing with you today is simply for informational and educational purposes. So what I found out with my brother, and I'm telling you my experiences, what I found out with my brother is that by talking to these financial institutions, it was very straightforward if his kids were the beneficiary. They filled out the claim form, showed the certified death certificate, and they got the money. At the bank, though, because he did not designate a beneficiary, and this is the case with most financial institutions, it will default to the estate. Now, he didn't have a lot of assets in his estate. When you looked at his debts and his assets, it was negative. So going through the probating process, the court, to separate a negative estate is not beneficial because it's going to cost and there's going to be nothing out of it. So what I found out is that I was able to file what's called, let me look this up, I was able to file an affidavit of heirship with the county. And so when I filed the affidavit of heirship with the county, identifying his kids as the beneficiaries to his estate, I gave that to the financial institutions, and they wrote the check directly to the heirs. So I was able to bypass the estate planning process and probate with his bank assets through that process. Again, I talked to an attorney who told me these things, so I just didn't do it myself. I kind of stumbled and found out on my own with the advice of a professional. And then the other thing he had was a car. He had a type of insurance that allowed the balance of his debt, of the loan for his car to be paid off. So he was able to have a car free and clear of any debt. And there's something called the Texas DMV Affidavit of Heirship for motor vehicle form. So probably every state has something like that. It's an affidavit for the Department of Motor Vehicles that allows the title to be transferred to the owner, to a new person, the beneficiaries, without having to go through probate. So in the nutshell, all of his assets were able to be transferred to his beneficiaries without having to go through probate, and he did not have a will. I say that because there are some exceptions. There are some people who don't have a will, they don't have a lot of assets, and they don't have a lot of money, but there's a way of orderly transferring the title of all of your assets and things that have a title to your beneficiaries without going through probate. Now, if you have a house, there's a way of doing that as well. There's a form called transfer on death deed. So transfer on death deed. Now, this is a type of deed that allows the property owner to specify who will inherit the property upon their death, bypassing the probate process. It's a convenient way to transfer ownership without the need for a will or other legal proceedings. So again, with this, you should always talk to your attorney. And while the TOD deed is a useful tool, it's important to consult an attorney to ensure that it is executed correctly and applies to the right state laws. I wanted to share that with you because, again, a lot of times we talk about we got to have a will, we got to have things in place, and not everybody can afford an attorney for that. In some cases, when you look at the value of your estate, it may not be necessary to go through probate because there's a cost involved in that, and it takes time. A way of avoiding probate as well is to take care of the transfer of those assets before you pass. Another way is to actually have a trust. Now, trust is more expensive to create because an attorney has to create it. You have to identify the trustee, have enough assets to make it worth having the trust. However, when you pass away, there's no court process because the trust governs how your assets are going to be transferred upon your passing. So having a trust is worth having if you have a lot of property in multiple states, or you have a lot of assets that you have beneficiaries that are too young to manage, or you want to control how those assets are managed after your passing. Important again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, talk to an attorney. So again, it goes back to, is this important to you, man, or women? If we've all gone through situations where someone did not have their stuff in order. Walking inside somebody's house who passed away, and let's say they were hoarding a bunch of stuff. I know with my kids, there's no way that they can, given their lives right now, there's no way they can stop what they're doing, come to my place, and then decide what are they going to do with all of the stuff that I held on to that I think is important. I know that I recently helped a friend move, and I was noticing all of the stuff that was acquired. They were actually downsizing, and I didn't say anything, but I thought to myself, is my stuff in order? If I was not to wake up tomorrow, my kids, I have an ex-wife and I have some friends, when they go into my place, will they feel like things are in order, they know where to go, or have I left like a mess? And even though my stuff might be orderly, it could look orderly, but they still don't know where to go. So that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to encourage you to be motivated to look at your affairs and say that if I just couldn't do what I'm doing right now, if I couldn't manage my financing, do I have things in order to where someone can open up a book and follow instructions and know what needs to be done? I started that process when I started thinking about that. I have a will, I have a power of attorney, medical power of attorney. I need to always keep them updated because some people who I've assigned to be agents have passed away. But when I have those documents and I put them in a folder, that's not it, because there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before that if I was to pass away that my family has to make decisions on, like my final arrangements. My sister, God bless the sister, what's up, Nita, I love you, baby. She has taken care and have prepaid all of her final expenses. Now, I haven't done that. I have a life insurance policy where whatever the decisions that are going to be made, and I've kind of told people what I wanted, they have the money to deal with it. But my sister said, you know what? I just want things to be easy because I don't want her, she doesn't want her son to have to make these emotional decisions, these decisions at the time where he's very emotional. So her stuff is completely paid for. And so I need to learn from that. So if that is inspiring you to go ahead and talk to a final arrangement specialist and kind of just hear what are the decisions that need to be made, what do you want to take off your family's plate and go ahead and get it paid for, that will be a blessing for them. But if you don't really care, no judgment, does not matter because we're all one, right? So I want to encourage you of the importance of doing that simply because it is challenging to our loved ones. A lot of times I talk to kids of parents, of older parents, and the kids are trying to talk to their parents about getting their stuff in order. And it's not working. You can imagine, because I cannot imagine my kids coming to me telling me you gotta get my stuff together. It's like, get your life straight, right? I'm still your safety net, and you trying to tell me to get my stuff together? So outside of those triggers that I have, and you may have, it's difficult to try to encourage other people to do things that we're not even doing. I find that in a lot of situations, I'm more tolerant of myself than I am of other people. You hear what I'm saying? I'm more tolerant of myself, so I might procrastinate, I might put things off. But when it comes to other people, it's like, hey, yeah, you need to get your stuff together. We're in this together, right? So here's my advice to any child of a parent, and that child is looking at the stuff the parents has and looking at, okay, well, when my parent passes, what am I going to do? Maybe we need to get this stuff to get in order first. Maybe we need to understand how finances are being managed, because I actually helped my mother-in-law manage her finances for a number of years before she passed. And the first time it was brought to me, the mother-in-law didn't want to disclose everything, and the family wasn't really on board with that. And then the second time around, where it was really needed, I did step in and I was able to provide some value. But I had to dig deep. I had to get into all of her bills, access the online accounts, the bills that she was paying manually, and I set it up to where I managed her finances the way I managed my finances. And it was very simple and hands-off. But if my situation, the way I'm doing mine, if it's not documented, if I couldn't handle my bill payment, if I was out of pocket for 2-3 months, I want to make sure that my son can step in and look at a book and understand how bills are getting paid and keep things current, so I'm not going to be evicted if I'm not paying my mortgage. That being said, it's important to have the conversation with your parent if you're the one that's going to be stepping in and taking care of stuff if they can't do so. But here's what happens. Here's the best way of engaging that conversation. It's not reading these books, right? And then saying, look, let's go through this book together so I can get all up in your Kool-Aid and tell you how you need to organize your stuff when I'm stepping in. Maybe you need to apply it to yourself. Go through this process thoroughly yourself. Organize your stuff. And then what you can do is share with your parents what you have done to keep order in your stuff, because at the end of the day, we don't know when people are going to, not wake up tomorrow. You may not wake up tomorrow before the parent that you're caring for. So if you get your stuff together, which is, again, not being so tolerant about yourself, but being on yourself, stop procrastinating, deal with the uncomfortableness of dealing with our mortality, go ahead and get our stuff in together and then share that intimacy or that transparency with your loved one and say, look, this is what I've done. You would also know how difficult it is to go through that. Because if you're talking to somebody else, trying to convince them to go through their process, and you haven't done it yourself, you don't know how difficult that is for that person. You don't know why they're not doing it. And so the other thing to realize is you're not going to motivate somebody to do something for the benefit of you. You hear what I'm saying there? So you're not going to tell somebody, look, you need to go through the uncomfortableness of getting your stuff together and dealing with your mortality, and stop procrastinating, because the more you procrastinate, it's going to be hard for me. That's not going to motivate somebody to do something, right? It may not, but if you really understand what that process is and see what it's like to be on the other side of that, maybe you can talk more so about the benefit of going through it, no matter how difficult it is, to get things together and in order. So again, I just want to bring that to your attention. There's a lot of misconceptions. Like I said before, estate planning is not for only the wealthy people. Everybody has an estate, everybody has stuff, and everybody has people that's going to be left behind that are going to be impacted by your loss. And it's natural to feel uncomfortable going through this. Discussing death is not easy, but it's unavoidable, right? Because everybody's going to go through it. By facing this difficulty head on, it's much better. There's a book called A Year to Live that I'm going through that my cousin told me about. And it's not a morbid book, but it's really a process of realizing that we are not going to be here forever. And if we are taking our precious time more with more mindfulness and more attention, and realizing that these relationships we have are precious relationships, and what are the memories we want to leave behind, then we will probably move differently. But going through this, again, is not an easy thing. How do you overcome the need to procrastinate? Is to just break down. Usually when you look at how big this is, or definitely creating this book, break it down into sections. Break it down into smaller sections. Don't make it so overwhelming. You might carve out 30 minutes or an hour to just organize a certain aspect of your home or a certain aspect of your finances to document. Okay, so what type of income do I have coming in? Or what are my expenses that are automatic? What expenses do I pay manually? What are my debts? And just put that in a book for a given month, and then save that and maybe update that periodically when things change. You might do that in the process for January and say, okay, well, these are the bills I have all in January. This is how they're paid. It may include the actual vendor or the payee, the account number, how you pay it, what account it comes from, whether you write a check, and then the address. If you have an account online, you might have the link to the online access, your username and password, so that people can access it. And then also have your phone number and your password to your phone number, or the code to get into your phone, and as well as your email address and the password to your email address if your loved ones are accessing your account from another PC, then all of a sudden that they might do an extra authentication. I got to look that word up to say it right. But there's an additional step of security where they're going to send an email or send a text to your phone. So you need to have the user ID and the password to get into your phones. So just breaking that up and knowing that the peace of mind that's going to come on the other side of that, you've got to project. So you got to imagine the comfort that you will have knowing that your stuff is in order. And if it's important to you, the comfort of your loved ones and how they would feel. And you may want to think about how you felt if you went through that process for your loved ones or for your parents. So I would say being mindful of that, and there's practical benefits as well. So understanding that if you have a larger asset, a larger estate, it's going to be less costly. So you're going to have more value in your estate that's passed on to your loved ones in the event that you've sat down with a financial advisor, you've sat down with an estate planning attorney, and you've thought through some of these things, and you've got things organized. You will avoid probate completely, or you will avoid the cost of going through probate. And again, that's going to be more of your assets going to your beneficiaries. It also may reduce your taxes, because there may also be some tax strategies in setting up your trust or setting up your assets or officiating or creating a more efficient way of transferring those assets that will reduce the taxation of it. So reducing your cost of the probate, reducing taxation, making it easier for your family members to only deal with your grief and not have to worry about how we're going to deal with this stuff and the mess. And all of those things, you got to write down. Another way of doing it is just write down the reason why. So you can have a piece of paper and say, why should I do this? Why should I go through the uncomfortableness of decluttering? Or why should I go through the uncomfortableness of documenting every financial transaction that I'm making? Why should I go through the uncomfortableness of identifying who would be my agents for my power of attorney, my medical power of attorney, or who will be responsible enough to be the executor to handle all of this stuff? And then how about this? What if you have nobody who you think is responsible enough to go through that? So that might be another reason why it's just not being done, because there's nobody in your immediate circle that you feel is responsible enough to handle your stuff. And if that's the case, I understand it. So what I would encourage you to do, and what I've done with my clients, is have them go through their contacts and just go through every contact's name, because there's probably somebody, a friend, or someone that they are not thinking of immediately that could step in upon your passing and handle that. So if you don't have a lot of assets, again, it may not need somebody who's very, there may be a way for you to avoid the probate process and having to identify an executor, and just have a letter of instruction and have the proper form so that loved ones can come in and know what they need to do. Identify an attorney to talk to. But if you do have a lot of assets and you have to identify somebody, you can then talk to an attorney or your financial advisor and see if there's more of a corporate executor who can handle some of the affairs. If you don't have anybody in your family who can do so. You can also have a combination of someone in the family as well as a corporate executor or trustee, so that your family member who's not familiar with all of these things can have somebody that they can consult with to get things done. But that's if your estate is of greater value and it's worth it. But definitely what I want to do in our conversation today is begin the conversation and encourage you to begin having those conversations with your loved ones and with a financial professional. Some of the other things, we talked about the components being a will, that start with that, your trust, your advanced directives, digital assets, which are really, I think is a big thing now, because a lot of times people don't think about that. When they pass away, you might see loved ones you still might have their Facebook account, their Instagram account, or there's also, I know with my brother, he took a ton of pictures. So unfortunately, a lot of his pictures, which were on separate PC hard drives and also on the cloud, a lot of those pictures are just gone because we couldn't access them anymore. And I swear, if you know my brother Tyro, he took a lot of pictures. And I know his family down in Waco, his church members and his friends are missing that a lot. But so as we kind of get to the end of this, I want to give you some tips on decluttering. And that's something that I'm going through right now. I actually had a big house in Lubbock. I moved to Dallas, had a big place I was living in, but I've been slowly downsizing and getting rid of my stuff to live a more simple life. I now have a loft in downtown Dallas, and I got a loft specifically for me not to have a lot of space where I've got to store stuff, because I am totally happy. When I was consulting, I used to go to live in hotels. I loved it. There was nothing for me to deal with in maintenance-wise. I did not have a problem sleeping in hotels. I would like the way I live to be like a hotel. So I intentionally created an open space so that I'm not living in clutter. And there are times where when things do build up, it's like, okay, I gotta stop this. And there's been times where I've been so busy, I've not been able to put things back where they belong, or I'm holding on to things too long. So having this conversation even today and helping my friend move are reminders to me that I really need to simplify more. I really need to get rid of more stuff. And I'm thinking about, again, what experience do I want to give my kids? I went through that again in 1983 and 88 with my mother and father. Some of the stuff that I have still held on to, which are my mother's art and the pictures I still have today. And then if I was to pass away, looking at the fact that my son is in his third year of getting a master's in Boston, he doesn't really have a permanent place to hold on to all of this stuff that I have. And my daughter is not living in a large enough place to store all of my stuff. Even though they have access to my loft, neither one of them really want my loft. So who knows if they're going to keep it and rent it out. So I want to really mitigate the amount of choices that they have to make and decisions, and putting my loft in a trust that has enough liquidity that it can be managed and generate an income for them for as long as they would like until they decide if they want to sell it. But I definitely do not want my loft and the cost of maintaining that loft to be an additional burden for them, and then what they're going to do with the stuff that's in my loft. So I already have a plan in place as to the stuff that I have, what to do with it, whether it's going to be sold. Family can take whatever they want, but if the rest of it can be sold via an estate sale so that they don't have to worry about it. And that's what I want. But that's important to me. And I would tell you that me moving has told me that I've got to do more. So it's not like my stuff is already perfect. So it's a continuous process. But I would say write down what are the reasons why you would want to go through this, because that has to be your motivation. You have to have a reason why, because if you don't really care, then it's okay. You don't care. At the end of the day, I'm going to be gone. They'll figure it out. Everybody in the past figured it out, and in the future they'll figure it out. So all of this stuff is not critically important if it's not really important to you. I have a friend who says, I don't want anything negative. I don't want to, I have a cousin who calls me all the time and tells me when someone passes away. It's like, don't call me. I don't like going to funerals. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. I don't even want to go to my funeral, right? So if you're like that, there's nothing wrong with it. However, if you do want to give your alive time some focus on how are people going to be impacted by you leaving, and you want to put your stuff in order so that people don't have to deal with confusion or a mess, then I want to be able to give you resources and tools. So definitely click on the link below the video, read these documents, email me at thrive@empowerseries.com. I've been yapping, I'm looking at this. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot in a question, and I can answer that before we close. I got a lot of appreciation and thanks. Hey, I would just tell you that we're on this journey together. So what's up, Amanda? What's up, Workout Junkie? Hey, Vaughn, Keisha Ellis. my middle name is Ellis, Clifton Ellis. So what's up, Keisha Ellis? Please share this with someone else. Don't keep it to yourself. But let's see, what's the other thing I want to talk about? Creating a digital legacy. Consider creating the digital scrapbook or time capsule to preserve your memories and share them with future generations. You can also use a social media account to document your life and to connect with loved ones. So the last thing I want to share with you is this. Someone said that a life worth living is worth recording. And I started with giving you, talking about Frankie Beverly and Mays and his song, We Are One. It's easy to see an artist who's either a musical artist or paints or who does any kind of write books or movies, actor, actress, and you can look at what they call their body of work. And so you look at their impact on the world, and you think that they are the ones that have some value that is left behind to where long after they're gone, someone can listen to their music or read their book or see their movie and be inspired by them. I would tell you that we all are leaving behind a body of work. So our body of work may not be something that is recorded, or it might not be a YouTube channel, or it might not be a piece of music or whatever, but the body of work that we're leaving behind are all of the lives that we've touched and all of the lives that we've influenced, and we would never know it because we drop seeds all the time, and people are watching you all the time. You are inspiring people all the time. And it's amazing sometimes when people come up to you and they tell you, hey, you know what? I'm doing this because of this, or what you said really impacted me in this way. But I'll tell you, whether you're recording it or not, you are leaving behind a body of work. And I would say be intentful about that. Take some time. You can leave your body of work in a journal, or you can leave a body of work in a social media page, the pictures. There's many different ways of doing that. So in addition to creating order to your physical surroundings and having the proper legal documents and letting people know what you would like to have happen to yourself afterwards, and think about a way for you to create a body of work that your future generations can look at and be inspired by you, because your life is worth living. There's 8.12 billion people in this world, 8.12, and every single one of them are unique. Every single one of them have a unique message, and every single one of them has a purpose for being here. And while you're here, fulfilling that purpose is you just stepping out and doing what you do. You know, and it's sometimes just scary. You know, I'm scared. I'm scared sometimes doing the things that I do, but I know that there are people out there that are going to listen to this and be inspired to take that next step towards their goal. So my intent is to give you hope that whatever you envision is real, to inspire you to take some kind of action on the ideas that you have so that you can be a better steward of your ideas. It will dictate how you spend your time and who you spend time with, your relationships. I know I've given you some education and some things that you don't know or that you didn't know before watching this. You can share it with other people. When you learn something, share it. But more importantly, let's stay connected. Stay connected on our social media. Reach out to me at thrive@empowerseries.com. Let me know how I can be of better service to you. Because my goal is to be of greater service to more people. Even in the midst of my uncertainty, if I just go forward and say I want to give greater value to other people, and I have this idea that I'm a steward of, the Empower series, that is too big for me to do it alone. So I need your help. I need your help in sharing this with other people. I need your help in letting me know what I can do to be a better resource to you. And am I being a resource to you? And so if you can help me with the Empower series, serve and empower more lives, let's go all in. So until we meet again, be empowered to thrive and stay connected. Much love.